Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? I'm putting that energy out there to manifest things. Let's see if they work. So today I'm going to read The Key of Destiny and continuing on to number 12. I am working on photos for my World of Warcraft series. I have a humongous document I would like to read and get through, but I'd like to have images with some of those. And I just put on the gray agenda. I haven't touched that in a while. Who are the good guys? And of course, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree to agree, but that's okay. So I'm doing a lot of work. I have started the process of cleaning out my house. It's going to take me a long time. Yeah, not fun. But I want to get as much content as I possibly can in, so that if I do lose contact with people, you got enough to go through. So before I start, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Share if you can. And if there's anything in my work that you would like to support, a new book that now you found that you were like, whoa, where did this come from? You're connecting dots, you're getting epiphanies. Anything that you can do to support me, that information will be linked down below. It's very appreciated, as I don't have family and I don't really have friends. And not to say that I don't have people, but a lot of people exhausted themselves helping me out the first 8 months. I am still in a hole. I'm still in situations that I didn't ask for. I was working and I worked my whole butt off my whole life. Waking up at 3:30 in the morning and then 4 o'clock in the morning every day. Never really ever took off. Ever. I only took off when my mom died. So just know I'm a very hard worker. If there is a job out there that you think I can do, or a project or a painting, I'm an artist, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to do some work besides this. The number 12, the 12 disciples. We last time covered the 12 tribes. Now let's cover the disciples. Quote, that ye may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom and sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. End quote. St. Luke. Quote, all systems of religion, mystical, are based on numerals. End quote. Isis unveiled, Lavansky. All great religions are fundamentally allegorical expressions of the universal sun myth. That is, they are composed of allegories and parables which reveal the nature and activities of the spiritual sun in the spiritual life and unfoldment of man. And as above, so below. We're covering that a lot these days. These activities and stages of unfoldment correspond to the activities of the physical sun in nature during the cycle of 12 months. All peoples, therefore, may be considered as either unconscious or conscious sun or fire, a derivative of sun. Worshipper is usually the spiritual sun, but sometimes the physical sun. This is evidenced by the constant connection of the founder of the religion with the sun, light and fire. For the physical sun lights, warms, and vitalizes all nature. So the spiritual sun illuminates the mind, warms the heart, and quickens the spiritual growth of those who assimilate and respond to its rays. To emphasize this point, we quote the following from among the many references with which the Christian scriptures are filled. Quote, and Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. End quote. Exodus. Quote, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire. End quote. Again, Exodus. Quote, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them and consumed them. End quote. Numbers. Quote, and the Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire, for the Lord thy God is a consuming fire. End quote. Deuteronomy. Quote, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. End quote. John. Quote, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. End quote. John. Quote, this then is the message which we have heard of him and declared unto you, that God is light. End quote. John. Quote, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. End quote. Matthew. Quote, a midday, O king, I saw in the way of a light from heaven, above the brightness of sun shining around about me. End quote. Acts. Quote, and the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lord is the light thereof. End quote. Revelations. With such overwhelming evidence at hand, no argument is necessary. Great prominence is also given to the zodiac and the principles deduced therefrom. For instance, at the time of Job's initiation, he was asked by the great initiator, quote, canst thou bind the sweet influences of the Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou bring forth the Meseroth, the 12 signs of the zodiac, in his season? Or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? Knowest thou the ordinance of heaven? End quote. Job. The definite identification of the sons of Jacob with the 12 signs of the zodiac by their father has already been mentioned. I'm going to put a pause there. Big pause. Why? How in what we would call the Bible. And no, the Pleiades isn't really necessarily called the Pleiades, and Orion, again, is not necessarily called the Orions, because that's not what our galactic brothers and sisters call those places. Okay, but we call them that. So we're going to keep it that way. But how did Job and how did the authors of the Bible, I'm quoting there, and not to disrespect anybody, but did you ever reference to whom wrote the Bible? All the edits that happened to the Bible and all the time frames that it happened in? Constantine, some of the popes, narrative changes, edits, books missing, content missing. Who holds the patent and copyright? You can look that up. It's not who you think it is. So how did Job know, and whoever wrote Job, who knew about the Orion star system and Pleiades? How's that in the Bible? How did you know about that? Oh, that's right, because there was civilizations that happened way before the time of Christ, and way before the Bible even began its writings. There was the Enuma Elish, the Emerald Tablets, and Hermetic philosophy. So we can't cast that one all be all book aside necessarily, but we need to take into consideration that when people do reference the Bible, there's a lot going on beyond what we're given in this book. And I only venture to tell you this because I've done a lot of digging. And a lot of people will be very disheartened about the information that they find if you choose to look for the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And again, I'm not here to disrespect anybody's religion. I'm not here. A lot of people question my own observances of things. I am spiritual. I believe in a creator. Why do you think I'm reading everything that I am? Because it's all one. We are all one. We are all one and the same. We're just fractalizations of each other and of creator. We're on the stage. Remember that. But just think about why those two constellations were thrown in the Bible. It's very weird. In the New Testament, the triune manifestation of the spiritual Son in its zodiac is represented by the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, focused in the Son of Righteousness in the midst of his 12 disciples. That these 12 were directly related to the 12 signs of the zodiac is sufficiently shown by their connection with the 12 tribes and the 12 thrones. Quote, and Jesus said unto them, verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me, the Son's representative, shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Matthew, end quote. Quote, that we may eat and drink at my table, the circle of the zodiac, in my kingdom, and sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel, end quote, Luke. That the 12 disciples are to be regarded in the same light as the groups of 12 mentioned in the allegories of other religious and sun myths is now generally admitted by the foremost biblical scholars, expressed by one authority. Quote, on the face of all the gospels alike, the choosing of the 12 apostles is an unhistorical narrative, and in the documents from which all scientific study of Christian origins must proceed, the epistles of Paul, there is no evidence of the existence of such a body. In only one sentence is it mentioned that is demonstratively part of a late interpolation, whichever view we may take of the original authenticity of the epistles. Paul then knew nothing of 12, end quote. Quote, reference may be made, however, to the 12 zodiacal signs as representatives of the 12 apostles, of which King Arthur and the Round Table is but another version, as merely a figurative method of typifying the 12 as a fundamental law of psychic geometry. Hereby is sought to establish the truth that every circle of being includes 12 particular points of spiritual radiation or magnetic departures, whereby a change in the involuntary outbreathing becomes a vibratory foil to its polar opposite, or evolutionary inbreathing. As an illusion, observe the annual solar polarities, the sun through cognate in function with the universal center. Performance contracts 12 distinct points of coalesce with the cosmic energies in order to complete and individualize the incidents essential to the successive characters in its revolution. And as Hercules performed the 12 labors, so must the steps of initiation include the duodenary, end quote. Being the representative of the spiritual sun, the light bearer of every age normally drew upon himself 12 representatives through whom his light could shine forth or be expressed in 12 phases to the peoples to whom he came, just as the sun is reflected in 12 disciples or signs of the Zodiac. Therefore, no matter what scholarship and scientific research may determine as to the historic actuality of the 12 disciples of Jesus, the symbol is forever true, both cosmically and in the individual life of every soul who is striving to manifest the universal Christ light within the circle of his aura and environment. In Pistis Sophia, I'm reading that now, guys, we are told of a mystic transfiguration of Jesus. Quote, "It came to pass, therefore, in the 12th year, that the disciples were assembled with the Master on the Mount of Olives, when at sunrise they beheld a great light streaming pouring over him, and in it the Master soared to heaven. On the 9th hour of the morrow, they saw Jesus descending into infinite light. He may speak to humankind and reveal all mysteries, but first of all to the 12, for the 12 are his order, whom he hath chosen from the beginning. He chose 12 powers, receiving them from the hands of the 12 saviors of the light treasure, that through them the whole world might be saved. For the 12 tribes he chooses 12 disciples, and through them he spoke to every tribe," end quote. Even though the 12 apostles of the patriarch was a well-known Jewish institution long before and long after the days of Jesus, we are not therefore to conclude that the 12 disciples are a mystical continuation of that ancient Jewish custom. For the fundamental symbology of the number 12, as we have shown in the previous chapters, compels us to seek for a far deeper reason. And it is only by regarding Jesus as another manifestation or incarnation of the spiritual sun, the dot within the circle of a new cycle, that the great discrepancies and contradictions in the gospel narratives can be reconciled and problem solved. The 12 was a symbol necessary use by every light bringer, not to copy some older expression of cosmic truth, but to illustrate the 12 aspects of a cycle through which both the physical sun manifests in nature and the spiritual sun manifests in humanity. Also to indicate the 12 mighty zodiacal hierarchies or rays of understanding. The 12 mighty expressions of cosmic truth, 12 avenues through which the sun of righteousness, the incarnate world, can shine forth to illuminate the hearts and minds of all classes and conditions of humanity. They also represent the 12 gates to the New Jerusalem, that inner temple of truth in which each type of humanity, disciple, can receive the illumination of the inner mysteries face to face and heart to heart through his own special avenue of thought and teaching, that inner shrine where the one light reveals those inner truths, which cannot be given directly to the uncomprehending multitude, but which are the base of the outer shining forth of every true disciple of the Christ. The zodiac also represents the Last Supper, or the round table on which the bread of life is placed, the food which sustains the universe, while the life force, blood, of the sun, which vitalizes all the signs, is the wine of life, or the mystical blood of the cosmic Christ, of which all must partake. While all partake of this mystic bread and wine around the sun's table, only those who are truly disciples and who recognizes their Lord of light can consciously partake, quote, in remembrance of him, end quote, with the full understanding of what is taking place. These have no fear of the betrayer's kiss or any so-called malign planetary influences. Jesus fed the multitude with 5 loaves and 2 small fishes, and of the fragments remaining, they gathered up 12 baskets full. In other words, the light bearer brings to mankind the forces of the 5 extoic planets and the 2 stoic planets hidden behind the sun and moon, and these must be recognized in a simulated he can fill his baskets with the forces of those planets expressed through the 12 signs. From another standpoint, man must be fed by all the forces cognized by his five senses on all planes, supplemented by the two small, because hidden and undeveloped senses, he can receive the return of a basketful from each of the 12 signs. The age of the boy Jesus, when found by his mother in the temple expounding the law to the elders, also had reference to the relation of the evolution of the soul to the forces of the zodiac. That this incident is but another step in the manifestation of spiritual sun is evidenced by corresponding accounts found elsewhere. Quote, Strauss points out the extra scriptural stories of Moses leaving his father's house at 12 to play the part of an inspired teacher, and of Samuel beginning to prophesy at the age. In Strabo's account of Judah, after the recital of the Greek version of the Moses myth, the parents went to Delphi, anxious to learn whether the child which had been exposed, as was the infant Moses, was still living, while the child itself had gone to the temple of Apollo. The detail of the Christ child prophesying in the temple, however, compares further with the fact that the one part of the Egyptian ritual Isis figured as wailing for the loss of her child, the boy Horus, end quote, who was afterward found in the temple of the sun teaching the priests. For according to the sun myth, at the age of 12, the incarnated sun god or savior has passed around and completed the cycle of the zodiac, but a child has attained the light of wisdom, which enables him to consort with the masters in the temple, for he has demonstrated his ability to rule all 12 influences of the zodiac. Another significance of the light bearer prophesying and teaching at the age of 12 is that where the soul, the individualized sun god of its cycle, has really correlated with the influences exerted through the 12 signs, he is mystically 12 years old. That is, at the age of 12, this soul has fully incarnated. In Oriental countries, a boy has reached his maturity at 12 and is initiated into the caste, religion, or tribe, according to the practice in the various countries. Among the Western nations, however, who follow the outer and physical manifestations of the law, the age of majority is 21. 12 is reflected as 21, just as many other Stoic truths are reversed and misunderstood in the West. When the evolving child has reached this period, the soul, the 1 or 10, has taken possession of the body, 2, and made a new number 12. The child must therefore take upon itself new duties and responsibilities or be about its father's business. The soul must now take its place in the temple of the personality as a light bearer, for it has now reached a point where it has realized the character of the lessons and recognized the forces of each of the 12 signs, and has become consciously to control and utilize and impress them upon the personality. Previous to this age of 12, man's entire attention is taken up with his personal and selfish aims, but after that, he must begin to be about his father's business. He must learn to work unselfishly and for the good of all the father's children. During its many incarnations, the soul naturally must incarnate at different times under each of the 12 signs, that it may come under the influences and learn the lessons of each. Incarnation does not necessarily take place in each sign in orderly succession from Aries to Pisces, but varies according to the varying needs of the incarnating soul. The soul does not reach its spiritual majority when it has merely incarnated once in each sign, but when it has really grasped the lessons and correlated with the forces of each sign. It may require hundreds of incarnations in each sign before its lessons are truly grasped and the soul is given a glimpse of its spiritual destiny or its father's business, namely manifesting in the personality or microcosm all the perfection, powers, and works which the father manifests in the macrocosm. And even then, the soul is only a child in spiritual development and just beginning the task of spiritual man. Not only the recognition of the lessons and forces of each sign, but their absolute mystery, Therefore, even after it has reached the stage of unfoldment represented by 12, the soul must spend many, many days at school, incarnations, in each sign or mystery is reached and attains to the measure of a man, that is, of an angel. We can expound the law in our temple or personality only by performing the tasks set for us by the Father and learning their lessons one by one as they are presented. It is at the age of 12 physically that a child must begin to assume personal responsibility, for it is only then that the soul has fully incarnated in the body. The incarnation of the soul may be said to begin at the time of conception, for if there were no soul present to incarnate, conception would not take place. Another stage is reached at the time of the quickening, and at a third stage with the drawing in of the first breath. During the first two stages, there is a mere overshadowing of the soul who desires to incarnate and who has caused the conception. But with the first breath, the spirit or the soul begins actual possession of the body, but it is only a beginning. With the first breath, the consciousness of the incarnating soul dies to the higher realms. The first breath in this world, following the last grasp in the higher, just as the last gasp in the physical world is the first breath of the soul's return to the higher world from whence it came. It's very interesting. The possession of the body by the incarnating entity steadily progresses as center after center in the bodies of the children of the child is developed and made available for the soul to function through until the age of 12, approximately, or puberty is reached. The actual age of puberty varies somewhat according to race, climate, etc., but theoretically it should occur at 12. Indeed, 12 is about the average age between the northern and southern races. Children in the northern countries reaching puberty somewhat later, and those in the southern somewhat earlier. At that period, however, the body centers are sufficiently developed to enable the soul to take full possession. The power to create, which appears at the time and not before, is evidence that the soul is only then in full possession. The planet itself is now upon the threshold of its mystical age of 12 and must assume its responsibilities. This is one reason why there is so much unrest, why humanity is running hither and thither, why the elementals are stirring up all forms of physical unrest and seeking new and higher states of evolution. Since the 12 signs of the zodiac are all represented by animals, it has been said that man receives from the zodiac the forces of his animal nature. This is quite true, for a man's body can be found traces of all the lower kingdoms which he has unconsciously raised to a higher scale simply because they have been built in a human body. Yet through the planets, he also receives the higher forces by which to transmute the lower. Just as in the course of evolution, the life wave passed through all the lower kingdoms, receiving from each its characteristic forces, so much man take his animal instincts and characteristics, and through the power given to him, as man redeemed and lift them up in a higher expression. For after reaching the spiritual age of 12 as a conscious ruler of his zodiac, he must take all the forces of the animal kingdom, which he finds within him, and lift them above the mere animal, transmute them into perfect powers for the use of higher self. Woo! Almost there, guys. The number 12, the great work. Quote, what we have said of certain numbers we hold to be true only by reason of the correspondence existing between the higher and lower worlds. The sphere of causes, that of effects, the numeral and phenomenal worlds, the significance of a number of answers to definite archetypal and numeral relations, end quote, Kabbalah of numbers, Sifril. The ancient Egyptians attached great importance to the saying of children after they have reached the age of 12, because they believe that since in the solar system 12 marks the completion of the zodiac, so in the cycle of children's lives, the 12th year marked the completion incarnation of the higher self. The incarnation was believed to bring to the child many memories of the higher realms, glimpses of the future, in some cases the power of prophecy, to which wise men should give heed. In modern life, although children continually astonish their parents with visions, prophetic utterances, and wisdom far beyond their years, such remarks are often ridiculed and their significance is lost sight of. Hence, much wisdom is left ungarnered. The truth is that a soul which has just completed its full incarnation is quite likely to impress upon the plastic and receptive brain of its new body many profound conceptions which neither the child nor its parents can account for, but which are the result of the mighty inrush of the soul's consciousness as it leaves the higher realms to enter earth conditions. This is especially true of those advanced spiritual development. Especially are many memories of the last incarnation brought over, and often a conception of the soul's life work and the vital reason for its present incarnation. Pause. Truth. Before I hit puberty, I saw things. I predicted my parents' deaths. I was off on my mother, but I was correct on my father. And not by much with my mother, by the way. I had my past lives reoccurring vivid dreams constantly. I saw a lot of very scary and damning things. Never really was afraid of them, but I saw some really horrific shit. I had prophesied certain things as a kid, nothing huge to the world, but I would just say, you know, you're not going to be in a relationship, or, you know, that mommy and daddy are going to be divorced. And I would say some crazy shit. And my mom just looked at me and like, what the fuck is wrong with her? What did I adopt? But that's really true. When I hit puberty, my mediumship abilities didn't necessarily go away, but they kind of weaned off. But my empathic abilities started to kick in really heavily, really strong. And I didn't understand why I was being such a bitch everywhere, until I found things to calm me down. But back when I was growing up, okay, sorry, someone's playing some creepy music outside and I never know anymore. My parents didn't have any way to get me to a library to read any of the books because they weren't even in existence. And if they were, very few and far between. There was more sci-fi books than there were about mediumship and clairvoyance. And my mom wouldn't have never bought those books for me in the first place. So I'm putting a pause here and I'm giving you a personal experience because I really resonate with this whole entire paragraph. But I urge people who are listening to this that know of parents or people who are in custody of children who are seeing things that don't make sense, that are seeing things, their eyes are glowing and glossing over a room, they're experiencing stuff. Talk to them. Don't just close them out. And their imaginary friend might be an actual spirit or essence, whatever you want to call it. Talk to them. They might remember their past lives. They might be vividly dreaming. You won't know until you ask those questions, and be open and honest with them, and don't scare them. Just be curious. Open-ended questions. Little kids can handle that. Trust me. I was in education. I had plenty of little kids talk to me about ghosts because no one else would talk about it with them. And when I explained what they were seeing, it made sense. And I said, if they're not friendly to you, you just tell them that they need to go home. They need to go to the light. They need to go see their angels. That's all. But kids are in tuned, and especially now. A lot of kids are having a lot of difficulty because this world is upside down and it's not helping anybody, especially them. They're really the hard. I'm a victim to losing my job and losing my ability to help these children. But on a greater scale, these children are not getting the help that they need. They're not getting the food and the support that they need, even with spiritual parents, because the world is going upside down and inside out. Do we ever think about them? Or we're all just plugged into ourselves? I'm trying to find a job in my field, which is education, but you need to have this and you need to have that. If you are where I am, that's my expertise. And it's not because I'm indoctrinating children, it's because I am helping their energy. That's one of my jobs. So if you are a parent and you have a child with abilities, or you're suspecting that they're going through a phase, it's not a phase. Embrace what they are. Feed them all the information on the child level that you can, from 12 and under. And a little earlier now, because puberty is hitting at different ages and it's getting younger and younger because of the food that we're consuming. So just really be aware, guys. If you have kids, you know, people that have kids, I don't. But like I said, I was in education. And I knew the kids who really had abilities had no one to talk to. And as you have to be really careful at an educational place, and there's a lot of boundaries. Kids have high imaginations too, but a lot of the things that they're talking about are for real. And dismissing them does not aid them at all. So I just want to put that out there. The child naturally follows its impulse to speak these things, but if it finds its parents and friends inactive or filled with ridicule, its sensitive nature is hurt and humiliated, and it soon learns to cover up and stifle these impressions until they are obliterated and lost. If more serious attention were paid to the unusual utterances of children, especially during the 12th and following years when the child is formulating its ideas as to its work in life, there would be fewer square pegs and round holes, hence less inefficiency and misdirected lives. Since all things in the heavens have their reflection on earth, we would naturally expect to find 12 centers on the earth in which the influences from the 12 signs of the zodiac would find special focal points. The secret doctrine, we are told, quote, in the same manner on the plane of the upper ocean or heavens, a certain realm on earth, an inland sea, was consecrated and called the abyss of learning. 12 centers on it in shape of a 12 small islands representing the zodiacal signs were the abodes of 12 hierophants and masters of wisdom. The sea of knowledge or learning remained for ages there, where it now stretches the chameau or Gobi Desert. It existed until the last great glacial period, when a local cataclysm which swept the waters south and west, and so formed the present great desolate desert, left only a certain oasis with a lake and one island in the midst of it, as a relic of the zodiacal ring on Earth. Geographers and many others today look upon this as a mere legend, the sea symbolizing the sea of knowledge. The 12 islands, 12 centers, and man upon the zodiacal forces are forced, and the desert, the present condition of a stoic knowledge among mankind. But while this interpretation is true, the statement has a physical and geographical meaning as well. For the fine sand of the Gobi Desert is a preservative, as well as a destructive agent, and many wonderful mysteries are destined soon to be revealed among the treasures it has preserved throughout the past centuries. St. Matthew, referring to the last days of the 12th or Piscean age, tells us, quote, "Fear them not, therefore, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known," end quote. For even though through man's ignorance and disobedience, he has made this earth an unfit dwelling place for the physical manifestation of the great planetary zodiacal intelligences, and the great hierophants representing the 12 expressions of the spiritual sun, nevertheless, the cosmos again passes through the 12th sign. All the forces of the entire zodiac must be fully represented on Earth by those great ones who embody their representative hierarchical rays. Hence, we may expect to see the 12 sacred islands again restored. If we express number 12 in Roman numerals, we still find the symbology unchanged. Here we find the 2 ones representing positive and negative, and masculine and feminine, standing beside a cardinal cross representing the 10. In mathematics, the X represents any unknown quantity, in this case unknown because man and woman have not as yet been able to stand beside it as joint rulers of the mysterious forces it represents. In the ancient Sefer Yetzirah, or the Hebrew book of formation, the zodiac is represented by the 12 simple letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and we find our same ideas as to the symbolism of number 12. They're corroborated, namely, that the 12 signs are the houses of reflection of the various powers of the sun, which give it its various aspects of manifestation. Also, the 12 simple letters are the foundations of the 12 properties: sight, hearing, smell, speech, taste, sex, love, work, movement, anger, mirth, imagination, and sleep. These 12 simple letters are designed and combined and formed with them the 12 celestial constellation of the zodiac, whose signs are Teth, Shen, Tau, Samish, Alf, Beth, Mem, On, Quaf, Gimel, Dalth, and Daleth. 12 also are the months of the year: Nisan, March; Yer, April; Sivan, May; Tammuz, June; Ab, July; Elul, August; Tishri, September; Hesvan, October; Kislev, November; Tebet, December; Sabbat, January; and Alder, February. I feel like I'm back at Hebrew school, and I probably slaughtered all of that, so I do apologize to any of those people that know Hebrew. Man, the microcosm, also has these signs and letters represented in his body as follows. Also, side note, I didn't complete Hebrew school. I didn't like it, and my parents took me out. He, E, is predominant in speech and is connected with Aries, which rules the head, face, and the intellectual faculties, of which speech is the natural expression. Vowel V is predominant in the mind and also in hearing. It is connected with Taurus, which rules the neck. And since there is in the throat an important center which has much to do with the transformation of thought into speech, the connection is obvious. Zane, Z, is connected with Gemini, which rules the arms and hands by the movements of which thoughts are executed. Heth, H, rules the sight, feelings, and imagination. It is connected with Cancer, which rules the breast. Teth, T, is predominant in love and is connected with Leo, which rules the heart. Yod, I, is connected with Virgo, which rules the solar plexus, bowels, and uterus. This represents the celestial virgin, the rising sign at birth of all saviors. Yod is also the Alpha and Omega of all numbers, the divine one from which all are born. This answer in a mystical way the moot question concerning the Immaculate Conception. I am a Virgo rising. Lambd, L, is connected with Libra, which rules the kidneys, loins, and ovaries. It is connected with sleep and dreams. Nun, N, is connected with Scorpio, which rules the sex organs. Samish, S, is connected with Sagittarius, which rules the liver, thighs, and hips. It is connected with the sense of smell and perception. Ayin, GH, is connected with with Capricorn, which rules the knees. It is also connected with anger and pride. Tzaid, TS is connected with Aquarius, which rules the calves and ankles. It is also connected with taste. Quaff, K, is connected with the sign of Pisces, which rules the feet. It is also predominant in mirth. Quote, the name of deity, which we call Jehovah, is in Hebrew a name of the four letters IHVH. It is capable of 12 transpositions, which all convey the meaning to be. It is also the word that will bear so many transpositions within its meaning be altered. They are called the 12 banners of the mighty name and are said by some to rule the 12 signs of the Zodiac. Dr. Smith, shows in Nimrod epoch of the Assyrian tablets that its 12 cantos refer to the annual course of the sun through the 12 months of the year. Each tablet answers to a special month and contains a distinct reference to the animal forms in the signs of the Zodiac. Alchemically, number 12 pertains to the great work, according to Bilius Levy. I could say that better, guys. Sorry. The great work is before all things the creation of man by himself, that is to say, the full and entire conquest of his faculties and his nature and future. The great work has two major operations, the chief one being the transmutation of all base forces and passions in ourselves into spiritual gold, thus setting the soul free from all prejudice and vice. The second is a threefold mystical operation which cannot be performed until the first operation is completed. It consists of, firstly, the transmutation of all base metals into gold. Secondly, the production of the universal medicine, which cures all diseases. And thirdly, the production of the philosopher's stone, which turns to gold everything it touches. This work is related to number 12 because only as man gathers up the forces of the 12 signs of the Zodiac and builds them into his life, can he become a magus, one capable of completing the great work. It is said that Hermes Trismegistus, we're reading him now, inscribed the entire formula of great work upon an emerald in the cryptic injunction, thou shalt separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross. In other words, we must be able to absolutely to separate in our lives and minds all the earthly from all that is divine or fire, and realize that spiritual things are the subtle, having fine structure, ethereal or hidden causes of life and expression, while all corporeal things which engage our outer attention are but the gross. These are but the outer husks, yet they have their places as vehicles. Yet once we separate the divine fire of life force from them, they have accomplished their mission. The great work, like all mystical procedures, has a triple application: religious, philosophical, and natural. It is religious because only as we seek the supreme wisdom in the divine revelation of truth within ourselves can we hope to accomplish the first step in the great work. It is philosophical because only when we have applied this wisdom as a philosopher, one who regulates his life according to the principle and schools himself to calmness and patience under all conditions, can we proceed with the work. It is natural in that only as we have learned the subtler laws of nature and matter and have proved the axiom, as above, so below, as below, so above, to be working hypothesis, can we complete the great work. In religion, it is gold of spiritual realization and philosophy. It is the gold of spiritual wisdom or naked truth. In nature, it is the gold of the sun force. The great work is spoken of as an operation of the sun because in nature, it is the subtle force of the sun which transmutes all gross and seemingly dead things into new forms of life. As the dedicated flower arises from the decomposing humus within man's body, the spiritual sun must accomplish the same great work. The Christ seed buried in the soil of man's gross animal body must be quickened and brought to flower in his life as the rose of the divine love. It is well known to chemists and physicians that the elements composing the body are carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, together with 12 mineral salts. If the average percentage of any of these fall greatly below or is markedly increased above the normal, the body either craves or expels these salts. For example, if the amount of iron pigment, hemetin, falls below the normal, we become pale and anemic, and the whole train of symptoms caused by anemia and insufficient oxidation follows. Reasoning on this basis, certain biochemists have connected the 12 mineral salts with the signs of the zodiac as follows: potassium phosphate with Aries in the brain, sodium sulfate with Taurus and the elimination of water, potassium chloride with Gemini and the animal tissues, calcium fluoride with Cancer, the teeth and elastic fiber, magnesium phosphate with Leo, the nerve sheaths, potassium sulfate with Virgo and oil, hair and nails, sodium phosphate with Libra and the acids, calcium sulfate with Scorpio and tissue cleanings, silica called the surgeon of the system with Sagittarius, calcium phosphate with Capricorn and the bones, sodium chloride with Aquarius and the control of water, ferrium phosphate with Pisces, the blood and vital energy. In Masonry, great emphasis is laid upon the number 12. The 12 functions of the lodge are presided over by the 12 sons of Jacob and connected with the zodiac. Thus, Reuben opens the lodge, Simeon prepares the land, Levi gives the signal, Judah presides over the entrance, Zebulun the prayer, Ishar the circumambulation, Dan the advice to the altar, Gad the obligation, Asher the entrusting, Naphtali the investment, Joseph the NE corner, and Benjamin the closing of the lodge. The 12-inch rule is a symbol and guidance by law and order of liberty, equality, and fraternity. There are 12 lines of equal length from the sacred cube and 12 grand points. The Krata Napola, or the mysteries of the ancient Egyptian priests, tells us that the cycle of sun was symbolized in the 12 tortures through which the Egyptian neophyte was required to pass ere he received the sacred cross, the Tau, and became a hierophant. Chapter 9. Fruition. Quote, humanity and the stars are bound together insolubly because of the intelligences that rule the latter. End quote. The Secret Doctrine of Blavatsky. I'm trying to get my hands on that, by the way. While number 10 is the number of completion and number 11, a new beginning, number 12, we will call the number of fruition, or a review of the entire cosmos such as was made when God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Or we might compare number 10 to a complete tree with all its parts, number 11 to the same tree beginning to put forth in a new season, and number 12 to the tree at the close of the season when it has borne its fruit. In the 10th sign, Capricorn, man becomes a responsible being and chooses whom he will serve. For in the sign, we find both the goat of Mendes and the symbol of black magic, and also the cradle of the Christ. In the 11th sign, Aquarius, we start out to manifest our choice, either to be one of the servers at the marriage feast who pour out of the water pots the water of life at the command of the Son of Man, and find that he has been turned to wine, or to be a Judas who shall betray him. In the 12th sign, Pisces, we stand as disciples beside him and take from his hand the loaves and fishes, which at his command we distribute to the multitude, whom we have caused to sit down or become at rest. And only as we reach this point of fruition in our spiritual development can we swim like the two fishes of Pisces in the great unfathomable depths of occult and stoic wisdom poured forth by the Zodiac, and be prepared to take up the 12 baskets full of fragments. Or can we be said to have correlated the 12 signs and gathered their forces and become mystically 12 years old? Like the two fishes, we must also be able to swim in the deep places of the sea of humanity, and so master conditions that the tremendous pressure of its water cannot destroy us. For a true Piscean is one who has fully expressed all the powers of the 12th sign, and he should hold the world in his grasp and understand every influence expressed in all the 12 signs. Indeed, he should be able not only to swim in the water unseen, while unable to express that which he knows, as do most Pisceans today, but should be able to master and express or live in another elements at the same time. One characteristic of the fish is a wonderful power of direction without having organs to determine it. This will manifest in the development Piscean as an ability to make direct contact with unseen worlds, as the fish has the ability to see at great depths. So the developed Piscean will manifest the ability to see into the mysterious depths of life. The fish is a wonderful battery of magnetic and electric forces, while the undeveloped Piscean is usually quite negative, owing to the tremendous pressure of the forces which as yet he is unable to express. Nevertheless, the developed native of this sign will be able, like Jesus, the great Piscean, to manifest a powerful force in setting forth the teachings needed for advanced humanity. The earth has been passing through the sign of Pisces during the last zodiacal cycle of approximately 2,000 years. And as Jesus was the avatar for that age, just saying, his life and character we find set forth to the world of all humanity must ultimately express. However, it will only be when in the sixth great race, that's now millions of years hence, we pass this way again, that the majority of humanity will be able to express all that Jesus in his life symbolized and foreshadowed. Again, the 12th sign symbolizes the dual power of the separate sexes. All during the year when we have passing through the Piscean age, the problem of sex has held sway, And truly man has eaten of the tree of life and has learned to know its evil side. Hence the angel with the flaming sword even now bars the gates of Eden. But man is destined to learn the use of this force for good as well as for evil. And now during the long passage through the Aquarian age upon which we have entered, we must learn the many higher lessons of sex. For verily it is destined that once more the woman shall give to eat of the tree of life. And as once prophecy has been fulfilled, namely, quote, the day ye eat thereof, ye shall surely die, end quote. Equally true shall be the words of the serpent, Saturn, the great initiator, when women gives to the men the ripened fruit at the right time, the time of its perfection, namely, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. The 12th sign is not easy to comprehend, for its numerical composition of 10 and 2 shows its fruition or perfection in duality. Number 2, duality, or the physical separation of the one divine ray into positive and negative expressions. And number 10, the same ray having passed through the entire cycle of 9 reached its physical perfection in 10, just as the great Piscean age was pictured at the beginning of Genesis, and the few graphic symbols of the tree of life in the midst of the garden, and of man's fall and banishment from Eden for eating its fruit after manner of outer senses, Adam, even when presented by the intuition Eve. So in the last chapter of Revelation, we find the beautiful assurance of its ultimate triumph. To understand this, however, it must be borne in mind that while the entire Jesus dispensation refers to the Piscean age, yet the planet as well as humanity must pass through a Piscean age during the evolution of great race, until the fullness of the manifestation is reached for this planet, being the least and last of this system to manifest its Piscean planet. That is great question of sex is the lesson to be learned upon it. In Revelation, we are given a picture of the conditions which we prevail during the 6th and 7th great races, when the new heaven and new earth will be ruled from the holy city, which will come down from God out of heaven, ruled by direct personal touch with the divine teachers and rulers of the cosmic hierarchies. Then will the tabernacle of God be with men until earth. But these conditions must be at least foreshadowed during the 6th and 7th sub-races of our present 5th great race. And I'm going to leave it there, guys. So I hope you all enjoyed that, because I sure did. And I got a lot of goodies to nibble on. Lots of information there. One being a Mickey Mouse clock analogy that a lot of people know about, with the 10 on the 2. That could be a signifying symbol, just saying, for those of you who follow and know what I'm talking about. I enjoy this book thoroughly, and although I know a lot of this stuff, it's really good to go back and like concrete it into my brain, because it is the foundation in which we are all here based upon. Sending each and every one of you love and light. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please consider supporting my work. It's very much appreciated. If not, just a like, a share, and a subscribe. And until the next one, have a wonderful day, night, and evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Please be safe. Please be prepared. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.